Okay, so today we're going to be reviewing another script that has been written with AI. This user sent this script in. They said they wrote it using ChatGPT, but the interesting thing here is that they did iterations on the script. So they had it write the script for them, and then they gave it back to ChatGPT and said, hey, imagine a junior developer wrote this and that you're a senior developer critiquing this. So go ahead and do this. So they had a little bit of back and forth and actually tried to iterate on the script and make it better. So we're going to look through it today. We're going to critique it, and we're going to see what we see. So yeah, we have it pulled up right here. You can see there's a whole GitHub for it, which is pretty cool. It's called EasyClam. A nice little README. EasyClam is a bash script designed to simplify the installation, configuration, and management of ClamAV, an open source antivirus engine for detecting Trojans, viruses, malware, and other malicious threats. That's cool because I've never heard of this. The script automates tasks such as installing ClamAV, configuring updates, setting up cron jobs for regular scans, and managing ClamAV service. Cool, neat. So some of the features: checks for root privileges, option to enable debug mode, cool. Detects the system's package manager. Okay. Okay, so just reading through this, I'm getting an idea of what the script's going to be. It's probably going to start from the beginning, figure out if you're able to install software, check to see if the software is there, check to see what package manager you're using, and then go ahead and install it and maybe put some files into place. That's just kind of the rough idea I'm getting from this. So let's see, to actually run the script, they have the git clone here. Yep, that makes sense. CD into it. chmod plus x, this will give it executable permissions, and then run sudo bash easyclam.sh. Okay, so right here, there's already an issue. Not so much an issue. This set of instructions will work, but it's redundant. If you give the executable bit to easyclam.sh, you don't need to call it with the interpreter here. You can just run sudo./easyclam.sh because it has the executable permissions. You could omit this whole step because this will still work. Sudo bash, the name of a script, will execute that script whether that script is executable or not, because you're not executing the script per se, you're executing this interpreter, which is being run with an argument of this, so the interpreter will read it from it. I'm being pedantic here, but if I were to make a change here, I would just say get rid of this. Get rid of the bash there and just call sudo./easyclam.sh. Okay, so I'm guessing, we're using sudo here, so we need to have root privileges to run this. Also, yeah, interesting. If we're in the repo and you've cloned this as your user and you've logged and you've CD'd into it as your user, you shouldn't need sudo to chmod plus x. You should just be able to chmod plus x. Couple changes we can make there, but not a huge deal. So let's go ahead and I think I copied and pasted it. There we go. Let's git clone it, and nice. We have EasyClam. Cool. So yep, if we go into the README, I think it's right down here. Yeah, I would do just this. There we go. And of course, it's a markdown file, so you can do this to properly format it as code. So that would be one of the changes I would make already off the bat, but that's not the script itself, that's the README. So let's actually jump into the script and see what we're working with. Okay, so what we have here is the script, and we can see there's a nice little ASCII logo at the top. This is really cute. I like this. And then, okay, looks like some license information. This is a very verbose script. This is going to be one of those scripts you execute on your computer and it prints a whole bunch of stuff and kind of gives you a whole framework of things. That's my guess, just looking at these two lines. Let me jump to the bottom real quick. Oh my God, it's 728 lines. Okay, we're going to see if we can review this whole thing. There might be too much here to review. All right, let's jump back to the top and let's get started. Okay, first things first, I would change this. If you are attempting this script to be portable on many different operating systems, you don't really know what operating system you're on, you also don't really know where bash lives, I would change this, of course, to user bin env bash, just because user bin env is usually more portable than /bin/bash, and this will execute the bash that's in the user's path first. So for example, actually I'm logged into my Mac right now. You can see if I do which bash, it actually executes the one in homebrew because that's a newer version. You can do type-a bash and see that there is a bin bash. And if this script were to execute it, we'd be running on bash 3.2. So I don't want that to happen. I want it to run on my version of bash. So that's why I prefer this shebang at the top of user bin env bash. Cool. So we have a nice little ASCII banner here. It looks like we just print it. We don't even save it to a variable. So when you execute the script, that is going to be one of the first things you see. And then we sleep for 2 seconds. I'm just going to tell you right off the bat, I don't love this. I don't like scripts that sleep unnecessarily. Either prompt me for input, but don't just sleep unnecessarily. I think that's silly. I'm not going to say it's a problem with the script. If this is your style or this is what you prefer, go for it. If you want it to be more readable, fine. I don't like it. I don't like unnecessary sleeps, so I would just remove this and any more that I could possibly find in this file off the bat. I'll leave it because it's not a bug, and this is, not my script, so it's not really my style, but I don't do this. Actually, right here, what I'm saying, I would go for prompting the user. So this line right here prompts the user. Read -R, so we don't do any weird interpretation of backslashes, -N1, so we're only going to read one character, -T5 with a timeout of 5 seconds, and the prompt is press I to view license information. So we ask the user if they want to view the license information, and if they say yes, we print the copyright banner, and if they say no, we say skipping license info. This is interesting because we have a timeout of 5. So if I just don't do anything, I think we still skip the license info. Again, I would just leave this out. I don't really see a reason for the software to print its own license info. Maybe if I ran it with like a -- version or -- license or something, I can get it. But I wouldn't bother with this. My only critique here would be why the timeout. I would just get rid of this. And that way the prompt will just hang indefinitely until the user does something. So the user has to say something in order for this to continue. This becomes a problem if you're running the script non-interactively. So if you wanted to run this script, from a different script and have it run when you set up a new machine, or if you're setting up 1,000 new machines, I don't like stuff like this because it's waiting for user input. Instead, I would like there to be an option like a -- force or a -- assume yes, where we just skip prompting the user for anything, and we just go forward with it. But probably outside the scope of this review. So let's just move on. Okay, now we have some functions. I'm hoping that the script, it looks like the script will just be a series of functions and we can just call these functions. I like that because it makes it easy to follow. See, okay, I don't like this. I don't like that we initialize a variable here in between functions. It's almost like it's hidden. If we're going to initialize variables, I would either want this at the top or if we have like some sort of main method. So like initializing variables, here. I would put that way at the top of the file. Let's keep going. I'm scrolling down. And oh boy, there's a lot here, a lot of different style I see. That's the one downside I've noticed. Well, one of the downsides I see with AI generated stuff, it seems to be a mismatch of different styles and different eras. I don't know how much the user has messed with the script because right here, there's no space between this comment, but there have been spaces with the other comments, and this function is indented for no reason. So again, I don't know if the user was messing with this at all, or if this was just going back and forth with the AI. I have no idea, but this function, it seems to be, this function is indented to the left for no reason. So yeah, I would just fix that. Or sorry, indented to the right. I would fix it by indenting it to the left. Not a problem. It will run just fine. It's just kind of confusing. These green highlighted areas are white space, so that's actually just a space there that shouldn't be there. AI seems to be notorious for leaving in white space, and it's probably because it's trained on a whole bunch of people's code that leave white space in there. You'd be surprised at how many people just leave white space at the end of lines. So I'll just delete those when I see them. I don't think that's great. I think that's just kind of sloppy. Configure your editor to show you white space like this, and you'll be surprised at how often it shows up. There's just really no reason it should be there, so we can just go ahead and knock those out. Oh yeah, even here, look at that. Yeah, I don't want to get too hung up on this. I might not do everything because it seems like there's a lot. Oh boy. Okay. What I'm looking for now is I'm looking to see how many functions are and if there is any code outside of the functions. Okay, this code looks like it's outside the function. Oh, that's interesting. This code down here, because there's no indentation, I thought it was outside of the function, but it's actually not. It's inside the function. It's just indented incorrectly. There we go. It should be like that. Oh boy, there's a lot of code indented incorrectly. Yeah, this should be here. So again, I don't know if the users mess with this or if the AI generated it like this, but that's not good. Syntactically, it's fine, but it makes it very hard to read and hard to follow the flow. Already, looking at how many if statements we have nested here, this is just going to be a complex. We're 4 layers deep, 5 layers deep. This is just too complex. This is going to need to be cleaned up. But let's keep going. This is already tiring, and I haven't even done any major refactoring to this. Oh my god, the white space is insane. I'm just going to delete that line. Yeah, there's just a ton of white space here. This looks like it's on a separate line. That's just the size of my terminal. You know what? I'll try and resize the terminal. There we go. Okay. We're getting there. Yeah, when I see lines like that, I suspect it's not the AI. I suspect the user has modified the script slightly by themselves, but I can't actually tell. I don't actually know. Maybe when they watch this video, they'll let me know. Let's see. I'm going to keep scrolling. Okay, we're actually, okay. That's okay that the indentation's on the left because we're creating a file there. I don't love that way of doing it. Okay, cool. We've made it through 727 lines. Okay, so I think there's some code that runs here at the top where we print the banner. We ask the user if they want to see the license, and then we define a bunch of functions, which is great because the functions don't actually run, they just get defined. And then we go all the way down here where we say, welcome to EasyClam. We run the main method, and then we echo EasyClam exiting, and then we run exit. This call to exit is unnecessary. We can get rid of it because exit will actually exit with the return code of the command that was run before it if it's not given. So we can say like exit 5 here to exit with the code 5 or exit 0 to exit successfully. If there's no code, it will exit with the return code of this. So echo should pretty much return 0 if we're echoing to standard out and standard out is open. So I would just omit that. There's no reason to explicitly call exit there. We'll just call main and then we can call this. I hate that there's sleeps here. This might have been useful while debugging and you want your code to like go slow or whatever, but these are just unnecessary. In fact, I'm just going to clean it up how I would clean it up. Like this is how I would do it. So the first thing we do is we check root. I don't like when code does this, but I'll talk about this in a second. Actually, because I'm assuming what the function does. Actually, let's go check out the function. If the effective user ID is not equal to 0, then we echo this script must be run as root. We pipe that to t-a log file, and then we exit 1, so we exit with a failure. So t is a command that takes input from standard in and can split it to multiple output streams. So what t does is it will write this to standard out, and it will also append it to the log file. It won't overwrite the log file, it will append it because the -a is given. So what is log file? Log file is defined here in prompt debug mode. Yeah. Looks like it's just being called in all these places. I'm looking to see where it's defined. Okay, it's only defined in prompt debug mode. We haven't gotten to that function yet. So at this point, log file may or may not be defined. What I mean by that is Bash shares its variable scopes with environmental variables. So if I run this script and have an environmental variable called log file, then it will write there. If I have nothing set, then t will write to nothing. And I actually don't know what t does if it's not given an argument. What have we done so far in this program? I think I'm actually safe to run this. Let me try that. I'm going to run it as non-root. I can prove that by showing my effective UID is not 0, it's 501. That's because I'm running as Dave. So let's go ahead and bash EasyClam. Okay, so it prints that. We sleep for 2. It asks me if I want to view the license information. Normally it would skip after 5 seconds, but I removed that. So let's go ahead and say no. And then it says, welcome to EasyClam, T, no such file or directory. This script must be run as root. And then I think it should exit with 1, right? Correct, it does. Look at this. That's because T is trying to write to a log file variable, but we don't have that set. So that's a bug with the script. We can set one here if we wanted to. We could say like temp easy.log or something and then run it. And it will go through and it will do the same thing and it should fail. Let's go ahead and say no. Look, there's no error this time. You know why? Because if we cat temp easy.log, there it is. It went to that log file because we defined log file. So keep this in mind with bash scripts. You didn't define that variable in your code, but I was able to define it because all variables they share the same pool of variables as the environmental variables. So yeah, this lifetime is not great. What I would do is I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. We're prompting debug mode. We're going to ask the user if they want to use debug mode. Either they say yes or no, and it looks like the default is no, that they don't want to. So what I would do is I would take these variables and move them to the top. So we can see that debug is set and no log file when debug mode is disabled. Cool. I would set those up there so they are set for the program right when the program executes. There's no ambiguity there. And then you don't even really need to check this. I would do something like this. You could actually just omit this whole thing. I don't like to do that with a case statement. I like to leave all possible cases checked. Even if I don't do anything, I put a comment explaining to the person, no, this is not a mistake. I didn't miss something. This space intentionally left blank. That's effectively what I'm saying here. That's how I would approach this problem. Also, this is just a personal nitpick. I don't love code that checks for root privileges because you don't really need to be root to do this stuff. You just need to be able to escalate your privileges to root when necessary to do this. So I think this is overly limited. This sort of checks that you have all the permissions in the world, when in reality you might only need 3 different permissions, random numbers, but you might only need a small subset of permissions to execute what you want to execute here, as opposed to needing the whole shebang. So I personally would leave this out, but I can understand why you'd leave it in. I'll leave it in for now, but we can also use this. Because we're in bash, we can treat this like a number. So we can just do this. As long as we use open and close parens, we use 2 of them. Now we're in arithmetic expression. We can even leave out this $sign. We can say if the effective UID is not equal to 0, then the script must be run as root. Again, I wouldn't do this, but it's your script. You can do it how you want, so I'm not going to change it to fit my own standards. I'll just fix the bugs. Okay, first thing we do is we check root. All right. The next thing we do is prompt debug mode. Okay, so that function is next. So the next thing we do is we ask the user, do you want to enable debug mode, yes or no? So if they say yes, we set debug equal to true. We create the log file. We set the log file here. And then this is interesting. We exec2 into t log file. This is really cool. You almost never see this notation, process substitution, but instead of like outputting to, you're writing into this file. So this T process will keep running and all of standard error will get redirected to this file for the duration of the script. Really cool trick. This is a pretty advanced bash, so it's cool to see this. So yeah, this is neat. This is a neat little trick there. Interesting. Okay, the next thing we do is we detect the package manager. Okay. Function to detect the package manager. We echo EasyClam starting. Why are we doing that? Didn't we echo it down here? Welcome to EasyClam. Oh, okay. Hold on. I take it back. We have a welcome message and then we have a starting message. Okay. Here's my thing. EasyClam starting. Why does detect package manager need to know that the program is EasyClam? It doesn't need to know that this is the name of the program. And in fact, detect package manager should just be responsible for detecting the package manager. It shouldn't be responsible for telling the user where they are in the lifecycle of the program. So I would take this, I would move it like here or something. This way, it makes it very easy that when we're in the main method, we're in the EasyClam mode. We're thinking about the whole process in terms of EasyClam, but we're in detect package manager. We're only thinking about different package managers. Okay. So we debug message detecting package manager. We have a list of package managers that I'm guessing this script supports. That's pretty neat. For manager in managers. Look at this syntax. Beautiful array iteration syntax. This is absolutely correct. If command -v manager, then package manager equals manager. Okay, I can tell you what's happening here. This is actually pretty sound logic. You're checking if this command exists on your system as an executable. So like if I'm able to run nala, then we set the package manager equal to nala. We print that the package manager was found, and then we just exit because there's nothing else to do. I don't say not exit, we return from this function. And then if that doesn't work, we check apt, then we check DNF, then we check yum, zipper, pacman, etc. But basically we look for the first one that is available on our system, and then we make the inference that that's the package manager that we are going to use. Personal nit for installation scripts, I do like when they take arguments. I would like to be able to pass in an overriding argument, like a -- package manager equal foo. That way, instead of it going through its auto detection, it'll say, no, the user told me it wanted to use yum, so we are going to use yum. Maybe apt exists first, but they said they wanted to use yum, we're going to use yum. I'm not going to hold your script to it. That's like a feature I would have added later. But we went through, we found the package manager that existed, and that's good. If we made it to this line, then no package manager was found, and we have to exit. So we actually just break out of the script. Awesome. Hey, that's great. Cool. So let's go back down. Now the final thing we need to do, check ClamAV installed. So this is interesting. This script is supposed to check if it's installed and then install it if it's not and configure it instead of cron. Where are those in the main method? Where is like install ClamAV configure cron? Where are those? Well, they're not there. So I'm guessing this function will call those other functions. So we should probably re-architect it so it doesn't work that way. Jumping the gun here. Let's take a look at what we have. Check ClamAV installed. So we're going to check if ClamAV is installed. The way we do it is we check that clam scan, this command, is there. Cool. So if the command is not there, it's not currently installed, we ask the user if they would like to install it. If they reply yes, then we do all of this. See, that's too much for me. I don't love that we do that, because why is the function that checks if ClamAV is already installed also the function that then goes on and install it? Check ClamAV installed should return like true or false or something, and then we should determine from the main method what course of action we want to take. So let's ignore that for now, and let's just look forward and see what actually happens. So here we go. Oh, this is not indented correctly. So if we don't have clam scan and the person says, yes, we want to install it, then we will install it, configure, and prompt cron and a cron choice. Cool. Otherwise, we exit because there's nothing we can do here. Cool. Awesome. The user said no, so we're done. Anytime the user says no, we're done. That makes sense. What if clam scan exists? Then we run the ClamAV exists function here. Okay, so what does that function do? That function is already installed. Okay, oh, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. ClamAV is already installed. Would you like to reinstall, reconfigure, remove, or exit? That's pretty neat. Okay, cool. So you can do a lot of stuff here. So if you want to reinstall ClamAV, then we remove it, install it, configure, prompt anacron. Hey, that makes sense. You want to reconfigure it, we do some additional setup steps, we configure, and we prompt. This logic is pretty sound. I like this. Removing ClamAV, cool. You just remove it, and that's good. And then you exit. If you print E for exit, then we just exit. If you give an invalid choice, then we run the function again. Oh, this is just like the first AI script I reviewed, where every time you give it an invalid choice, it recalls itself. It doesn't go to the top of the loop. It calls a brand new function. So it pushes this function on the stack. Technically speaking, if I were to give it a bad choice, like if I were to just keep hitting A and enter, eventually I will get a stack overflow because I'll blow out the stack. Not great, but we can deal with that later. Okay, so if it exists, then we have all these possible sets of options. And if it doesn't exist, then we ask the user if they'd like to install it. Okay, this is interesting. Let me think about how I would do this. I would probably do this. I'm going to copy this. We're going to put it down in the main method, and we're going to do this. I'm going to rewrite some stuff, and I'll explain what I'm doing after I figure it out. Check ClamAV installed. Let's see. Okay, so what I'm doing is I haven't actually written the code yet to do this, but I'm going to re-architect the code. So we're going to do if it's installed, check if it's installed, and then act accordingly. We're going to check if it's installed. If it's installed, then we will run ClamAV exists, and then we're going to check if it's not installed. If it's not installed, we're going to prompt the user what to do here. Either they tell us to go through this whole thing, or we just skip it, okay? So that means we need to re-architect this function to just simply do command-v clam scan, throw out everything to dev null, and that's it. So let me explain what I did here. I re-architected this function to just do one thing. All it does is check to see if ClamAV is installed. That is all this function does. So we call it in our main method now to... If it's installed, then we run the ClamAV exist function, which has all those other options. If it's not installed, then we will prompt the user and ask them what they want to do. In fact, just for sake of consistency, we could do something like this. Kind of weird, but we could make a second function that we could call if it doesn't exist, and that'll kind of make it clear. So let me find that exists function. ClamAV exists. Okay, so we have this function that gets called if it exists. Let's make a new function that gets called if it doesn't exist. ClamAV doesn't exist. That way, because it's in an actual like function, it's easier to read. Cool. So we can go up here. Function if ClamAV is already installed, we'll run that. Function if ClamAV is not already installed. Cool. So this makes the function, extra curly brace, this makes it a lot easier to read, right? Look at our main method. Check root, prompt debug mode, start EasyClam, detect the package manager, check if it's installed. If it's installed, then we run this. If it's not installed, then we run this. That is way easier to follow. All right, let's start going in the chain of logic here. If it exists, what do we do? ClamAV is already installed. Would you like to reinstall, reconfigure, remove, or exit? Cool. Let's say we want to remove ClamAV. What does that function do? Removing ClamAV. Okay, we figure out what package manager the user is using, and then we run the associated commands that make sense for the package manager. Okay. So This is one of my issues. You check to make sure that the effective UID of the user is root, so they have root privileges, and then you go on and also run sudo. So you have to make up your mind here. Do you want to check that the user is root at the beginning of the script? If you do, then drop the calls to sudo here because they're not needed. If you don't, retain the calls to sudo because they will be needed to escalate the privileges whenever makes sense. I leave that up to you, but I would say if we're going to check if the user's root, again, I wouldn't do it that way. We can just get rid of these calls to sudo. I'm not going to do it for everyone, but you get the idea. They're redundant. And then we have unsupported package manager. Good. This is a good check. I'm glad that we check it. This indentation is wrong. ClamAV removed successfully. Was it? Was it removed successfully? We ran a command to remove it, but was it successful? We don't actually know. But we can check because the exit code here will be the last command that was run inside the case statement. So we can actually just do this. We could say if equals 0, then ClamAV removed successfully, else echo failed to remove ClamAV exit 1 v. You could do something like that. Let me re-architect this. If it's not equal to 0, I would move these up here, and then I would move this down here. So we're left with this. So we just have an early return. If the command was not successful, let's print to the user that we failed to remove ClamAV because the package manager will probably have printed error, so it'll be easy to figure out what failed. Then we exit 0. Otherwise, we put ClamAV removed successfully. Error checking. Very important. You should be doing it. So, okay, this logic looks pretty straightforward. So let's go back down. Install ClamAV. That's the next thing in the chain. So let's go ahead and see what this function does. Okay, so here's where install ClamAV is defined. Here's where the function is defined. That's awesome. So we print installing ClamAV, and the first thing we do is we prompt for a system update. Okay, it looks like we do this in a lot of places. Okay, here we are. If system update flag is equal to 0, what is system update flag? That is the thing we move to the top of the script where we set it equal to 0. Okay, so I guess it's initialized to 0. If it's 0, so yes, it is, because this is our first time running this. Highly recommend updating the system setting before installing. Do you want to update, yes or no? If they selected yes, then we run the system update, and then we go through all the different package managers and we run accordingly. Okay, cool. And then we set the flag to indicate that the function is run. Okay, I'm guessing you only want to run this function once. So once you do a system update, we set it equal to 1, so we won't ever do it again. Okay, that makes sense. I personally find this style of if statement confusing. There's a couple things going on here. First of all, we're using double square brackets here and we're using single square brackets here. Why are we using single square brackets and shell notation here and using bash notation here? Like I said, it's a mixture of things. So I don't know if this is the author doing it or if this is the AI. Long story short, you can use double here. And once you have double, you can change this to equal so it looks more like a programming language. And then because we're using numbers, we can swap it out for this and this. And then, oh, I see. The indentation was 2 spaces. Even this function's indented incorrectly. There's a lot going on here. So let's rewrite some logic here. Okay. If system update flag equal 1. Okay. In fact, we can even do not equal to 0. That way it can be anything else. 0 just means good. If it's not equal to 0, then we will print echo system update has already run skipping. That way, once we have that, we can just return here. We don't need to actually do anything else. Return will break us out, and then we can get rid of a lot of this stuff. Then we can print, highly recommend update the system. Do you want to proceed? Blah, 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 blah. If they say yes, then we go and do all the stuff. Otherwise, let me get rid of this. We print skipping system update. So again, I would negate this. We could put a whole exclamation mark right here. And then we can say echo skipping system update, return, close that. And then we can just put this all on one single line here. And then look, we've saved a whole bunch of indentation. So when you read the function now, it's a little bit different. If the system update flag is not equal to 0, then we already ran the update. We should stop. Now we're going to prompt the user to continue. If they don't give us a yes, then we should stop. See how much easier that is to follow? Cool. Then we actually run the system update. We go through all the different package managers. We look to see what's available. And then we go ahead and run the update. We don't do any error checking. It might make sense to do some of this, like if it's equal to 0, then it was successful or not. I'm going to leave that out for now because I've already showed it before. But now we're going to set the system update flag equal to 1. Okay, cool. So that function's cleaned up. Let's go back to prompt system update. Installing ClamAV using your manager. So we go through here and we check to see what actually happens. Again, right here, probably put some error checking like we did for the remove function. That might be useful. I would definitely advise that, especially because you're installing it. Or another thing you can do is now that you've installed it, we can ensure that it exists. So we could do something like if command -v clam scan, I think it was. We could do this. Then echo, failed to install. I mean, put whatever you want here, but like failed to install, exit 1 fee. So what we're saying is we went through this whole installation process. I don't know which package manager we use, but at the end of the day, we should have the clam scan command now so we can check for the existence of it. That's what we could do there. Let's see. So what function was this? This was install ClamAV. Okay, that seems simple. The next thing we do is configure FreshClam. Okay, that's a cute name. Gathering info to configure FreshClam. Oh, wow, you actually curl and get the country code. That's interesting. Otherwise, you assume the US. Cool, fine. Extra white space here. So we have a list of config files. We loop the config file. Again, we're in Bash, so we can use double square brackets here as opposed to single square brackets. We're running sudo. Again, we've already checked to see if you're root. There's no reason to run this. Now we're going to run sed-i. Be careful with -i. It's not as portable as you think. Certain operating systems will expect like some sort of extension to be there. The goal of this command, I can tell, is to modify this file in place. So we're looking for the line that says database mirror, and we're rewriting it to have our country code. I get the logic here. Just be careful. This sed-i might break on different operating systems. This is not the best way of doing in-place file editing. You might have to look into different operating systems to figure out like what tool works. But if this works for your operating system, hey, that's great. So we go through all the configs. We updated it. Well, we only update the first config we find, and then we break out. So then we check if file found equals false. Then we know that there wasn't a config file. Again, just use the double square brackets. It's built in. The single square bracket's also built in, but we're using Bash. Might as well always use the double square brackets. Configuration not found. Would you like to search the entire file system for FreshClam? That's a wild question. This is wild. This searches your entire file system for freshclam.conf. This seems excessive. This is like saying, do you want to find the circumference of the circle? Pi is not defined. Do you want to calculate the first million digits? Like, this is a lot of work. Depending on your system, this could really, really slow things down, especially if you're on like a shared system with a slower drive. I don't know if I would support putting this in a script. I mean, you ask and you ask nicely, but this is kind of wild work for a script to do. But long story short, okay, you go through, you check to see how many files you found. There's either none found or you found the files exist. You print them to the user, and then you ask the user to type in the config file with its full path. Hey, I think that's fine. But look at this logic. If, like we are nested. We are very much nested here. So what we can do here, if file found equals false. Okay, search aborted. Yeah, it just, oof. I don't know if I'm going to do this in this review just because we're already so far into it and there's a lot going on here. I would take all of this logic. So if file found, I would take this logic down to here and move it into a function. This is what I would do. I would move it into a function. That way we can break out of it when it makes sense. Because if we put it in a function, we can actually put return in here and break out of this code instead of having to nest our if statements like crazy. When you find yourself in a scenario where you're nesting if statements 4 or 5 levels deep, you probably want to find situations where you can early exit. Like, wouldn't it be nice? Oh, no FreshClam found in the system. Return. Oh, search aborted. Return. But you can't return because this will return from the whole function. When you find yourself in that scenario, take that code, put it into a separate function. Now you can return from it. So I'm just going to leave this whole section as is. The meat of this section is that we're trying to find the right config file and update the database mirror to point to the one that is your country code. Fine, that logic makes sense. Hey, I hate this. I hate when codes have random sleeps in it. Cool, so let's go back. And let's see, configure FreshClam. Cool, the last thing we do as part of the reinstall here is we prompt cron and a cron choice. So just from the name alone, yeah, I'm guessing that we get to choose which version of cron we want to actually configure. So this supports cron and anacron. Hey, that's cool, whatever. So we ask the user, would you prefer to use anacron or cron for scheduling tasks? If they say anacron, then we have to set up cron no matter what. Again, having this function call itself, see prompt cron anacron, this is again a possibility for a Stack Overflow. I could just keep giving it bad data and eventually we would blow out the stack because the function would just keep getting called recursively. Not a great thing to do here. Go watch my first episode on AI script reviewing to figure out how to deal with that scenario. But let's take a look. So no matter what, we have to set up cron because anacron depends on cron. Cool. I wouldn't have been able to tell you that, but hey, that's neat. So let's see what setup cron does. We check to see if it's available by looking for all these commands. Oh boy, okay. If there's no command named crond and there's no command named cron and there is a command named cronny. Okay. I can't even tell you what does cronny have to do with this? Why is there no exclamation? Like, why is that a different thing? I actually truly don't know. I'm actually just legitimately, I don't know. So you ask the user what they want to install, or if they want to install yes or no. And if they say yes, then we go through and install it. Oh, okay, I see. So there's a cronny. Is this a bug? Should this be this? Because cronny seems to be a valid choice down here. Should it be that? I actually don't know. But judging by the rest of the code, I'm thinking that's a bug and that should be an exclamation mark. Again, I could be wrong. So we go through and we install the version of cron that they wanted. That's cool. This tabbing is incorrect. This is all tabbed over one when it shouldn't be. So if, oh my God, that's a lot here, dude. If there's systemctl, then we have to actually ensure that it's running. I don't know, systemd, so maybe this looks good. I literally don't know. Cool. If there's a command named service, then we use the service command. I don't even know what operating system has that. RC service. Hey, now we're getting something I'm familiar with. So now you're actually trying to manage the service. Then you have to create the cron job, create the FreshClam job. Okay. Not the flesh. I can't even say it. I'm not going to try. Would you like to create a cron job? If you reply yes, then you have to enter everything manually and then you'll construct the cron line for them. Oh boy. There's a lot going on in this script and I might have to take a break and review this. Like, oh boy, this is a long script. This is going to be a longer video than I anticipated. Okay, let's lock in. Okay. Create cron job. All right. Would you like to create a cron job? And if they say yes, we do a whole bunch of stuff. And if they say no, we just say skipped. Come on. We can make this so much simpler. Move this up here. If they say no, then we return. Then we can move all this down one level of indentation. And look at that. We've saved ourselves a level of indentation. We just have to get rid of this else and fee. Cool. So now if they do want to create it, we'll prompt them for all the information. We'll construct the cron job. We have a list of directories, which is just home. Enter extra directories, scan one at a time. Press enter without input to finish. For what? Oh, right. No, we're scanning for the ClamAV. Okay, sorry. I've lost track of it already, but this is what we're asking the user to scan. Right. Because this thing is a scanner. Okay, I have to keep in mind what this command, or what this program actually does. We read the extra dir. If there's no extra dir, we break out of this while loop. If they did give us an extra dir, then we have to go in here. What is directories? Draw directories is just home. Okay. If extra dir equals that. Oh, okay, we're looking for existing directories. Okay, you're looking for duplicates. check for dupes or conflicts. Yeah, this is where comments are useful. Okay. And then if we don't write the word skip, then we just add it to our list of directories. Otherwise, we give them an error. So we keep prompting them for users and we keep adding directories. This is a nitpick here. I like to leave this off. I know it's a directory, but a directory is still a file. It's a special type of file, like a block level device or like a block special device or a character special device. But that's just my own nitpick. There's really nothing wrong with leaving that slash there. So now we have to combine all directories into a single scan command. Okay, so we're going to make a scan command, clam scan -r -quiet -move home who am I infected dir. Oh, okay. So you just keep appending ampersand, ampersand, and then I was just going to say, if you keep doing that, you're going to have to remove the final ampersand, ampersand, but it looks like you do that. So, okay, that's fine. That works. You are making some assumptions about the user's home directory. You may not want to do that. You may want to use like some sort of, I'm going to save this. You may want to use some built-in variable like this. Because as you can see, like even this assumed /home, whereas on mine it wouldn't be that. So I would just probably do this. Cool. There's nothing wrong with this. This totally works. Now we have to create a cron job. So you list the entire cron tab and then you append your new job and then you write that back into cron tab. I think this works. My only issue is, the race condition here. This may be valid. I actually don't know here, but this scares me. I'm going to tell you why it scares me. Because you're running cron tab list here, and you're also telling cron tab to read from standard in. I think cron tab, this command, won't modify its cron tab until it's completely done reading. So there actually is no race condition here. I would just be worried about cron tab setting itself to being empty for a small period of time. I don't think that would happen with this command. That's more like the command cat that can cause this to happen. So I'm going to say this is probably safe for now. But I'm going to put an asterisk there. I don't usually write scripts that modify a user's cron. Okay, wow. I mean, this is, you've gotten complex here. This script has already gotten complex, and this video has kind of gotten away from me. But let's keep going. We're having fun, right? Create FreshClam cron job. Okay, would you like to add a daily update check? Cool. So we ask, and then we put that here. So, of course, you know how I like to do it. I like to do the early return. So negate the conditional, do this, and then we save ourselves a level of indentation. Cool. So if they don't want to, then we just say that we skipped and we return. Otherwise, we configure it. So local cron file equals this, and then we oh boy. Okay. And then we run sudo bash -c, and then it cats into a cron file this new bash script that we're writing. Then you chmod plus exit. Why? You don't need to use bash here. This is excessive. This is excessive. Because all bash is doing is what you're already doing. We're already inside bash. So I'm going to leave out the sudo as well. This should be valid. This should be valid. You're just telling cat to write into the cron file and to read from standard in until EOF. And this is what it's going to read in EOF. I mean, while we're here. Do this. In fact, I'm actually going to go ahead and say do this. Literally do that, because there's nothing crazy about this. You literally could just have like this. But let's leave it like this. Bin sh, and then we run this -- quiet. Fine. Yeah, you don't need to call the sudo bash there. That was excessive. You don't need it. Then you chmod plus x the file, and hey, you're good. That seems simple enough. Awesome. So what function called this? I already forget what function we're in. We have to like unwind our stack now. Okay, so that was called by setup cron. Okay, now let's set up anacron here. So we check if anacron is installed. This is all very similar logic to what we've seen before. Again, anacron is installed successfully. Do you know that? I would say, if it's not equal to 0, oh boy, then echo, exit 1, v, and then otherwise is successful. Obviously change this message to make it whatever makes sense for you, but yeah, you can do error checking on whatever these commands are. So just keep that in mind. Again, I hate these else's because I have no idea what they're tied to, so I would rewrite them. I'm not going to do it because I've done it a million times, but I would rewrite them to just exit early. I say that it's going to annoy me if I don't. I'm going to change it right now because it annoys me. If we have a command named Anacron, then we can say Anacron's already installed, return, done. Cool. Look how simple that is. And we saved ourselves 2 lines of indent. Cool. Now we're going to check if the user wants to skip it. Cool. So if the user doesn't say yes, then they want to skip it. Cool. So we'll go down here, and then we saved ourselves, hey, yet another line of indentation. And we can move these down, and there we go. So if it's already installed, we say it's already installed and we return. If it's not installed, we ask the user. If they don't say yes, then we just skip and we return. Otherwise, we go down here and we do the installation steps. We do the error checking, and then we can get rid of these. Create Anacron job, create FreshClam Anacron job. I don't think we've checked these out. Oh, there's a frequency and a delay. Okay, so slightly different than the normal cron notation. Okay, this is very similar logic. This might even be copy and pasted logic. You may want to toss this into a function, so you just only have to call it once. Okay, you're actually making a bash script where each line of the bash script is the command to run. Hey, look, you somehow know about the home directory down here. So like, I don't know where you got that who am I line. But this makes sense. Yeah, this seems fine. I don't know Anacron, so I can't tell you if this is right or wrong. I have no idea. Cool. But yeah, you have the skip there. I mean, you know, we can save an indentation. I'm not going to bother doing it. So most of that looks fine. And then we go down here. Yeah, oh boy, there's just so much here. This is one of those things. Okay, if I were reviewing this for like a coworker or something over a GitHub pull request, I would probably do multiple rounds. So I would comment what I've commented so far, I would submit it, and I would say, hey, make all these changes. And then when they made the changes, I would go through again with a fine-tooth comb. Sometimes reviewing code is iterative the same way that writing code is. Because I went from 0 to suddenly 700 lines of code I have to review, it's going to take a bit. So that's why this has kind of gotten out of control. But I think this is good. I think this is useful information that we're going into here. Okay, this one seems really, really simple. Would you like to add a daily update check? And if you do, here's what we run in the daily to Anacron. Simple enough. Seems way simpler than just regular cron. Nice. So that was setup Anacron. Cool. And setup Anacron was called by prompt cron Anacron choice. Cool. And that was here. Hey, look at this. Are we done? We might actually be done. Invalid choice. Please try again. ClamAV exists. It calls itself. I think that's it, right? Yeah, because if it doesn't exist, then we install, configure, and prompt. Install, configure, prompt. Yeah, that's it. That's the script. Kind of an anticlimactic ending there because it kind of just creeped up on us. Oh boy, you're going to run into issues like this. You're trying to support everything, and when you try to support everything, you run into situations like this. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. It just kind of makes you wish there was like some service command and some package command that just knew how to do basic things like install, remove, update without having to know the intricacies of the package manager. But sometimes those intricacies are important because what does update mean? Does update mean you're going to upgrade all of it? Because is update and upgrade different? To some package managers, yes. To some, no. So I understand why that's not the case, but then you end up with scripts that try to do everything, and when you try to do everything, you're probably going to break it someplace across the board. So again, nothing inherently wrong with this. I just can't vouch for how reliable service status all pipe grep -q cron is. I have no idea how reliable this is. What if I had a service named Dave Cron Dave? Would that match your grep? Technically it would. Do you have to do something like this and anchor it so it's just that? Is that what the line looks like? I don't know what the output of service -status all is. So keep these things in mind. On normal systems, most of the time, it'll probably run fine. But someone could set up a server where they grief it. I could just come in there and I could make a service called Dave Cron or Cron Dave or Dave Cron, Dave Cron, Dave Cron, and it would just break some of this stuff. And if you've watched my channel, you know I love to do things like that. I love to make files with new lines in them or color codes in them. I can make a file that when you ls it clears your terminal, like stupid little things like that. No one should do that, but there's no guarantee. There's probably a way that this could happen totally legitimately. So yeah, there was a ton of stuff here. It was a mixture of all different styles. If it works for you, that's great. Hopefully some of the changes that I have made. Oh, hey, look, who am I? Did you know about $user? All caps $user. That's another way of doing it. Are there other instances? So who am I? Nope, you're good. So yeah, hopefully some of these things have helped you learn what's going on with this code and just learn how to how I approach review in an iterative way. Hopefully this helps you think about code differently. And yeah, hopefully I covered everything in here because it was a large project. So yeah, there you go. That's me reviewing this AI generated script.